It's so crazy that Janae is going through this stuff right now. And it's interesting because this literally happens every time a black woman dates outside of her race. There's always these risks that someone is going to be racist or not like you or whatever. And we all know that most men are liars, cheaters, manipulators, maybe in the closet, blah, 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 right? But when you, as a black woman, are dating somebody of the opposite race, it's like a big risk because obviously you have the thoughts like, what if they're racist? What if their views don't align with mine? Like, will my parents like this person because they're white, or like just another race in general, right? And I feel like I've been through this literally the 2 times that I gave white men chances. I feel like they've let me down in both ways, you know? Like the first white man I talked to, he acted like he liked black women, and he was like, yes, like I'm obsessed with black women, I love their skin, and like, I don't know, I just always saw myself with a black woman, blah blah blah. Whole time he was like Kenny, how he was basically just pretending the whole time, you know, just like basically just infatuation, or basically wanted like sex with black women, but in reality he didn't want to date them, right? And then I end up finding out the white man had a girlfriend, and of course it's like a white girl, so basically he had like the white girl as like the trophy wife, but then he would like cheat on her with black women, you know. And then the second white guy I talked to, he seemed like the perfect type of man. I was like, this is too good to be true. Like, is my soulmate a white man? He's agreeing with everything I'm saying. I don't know, right? And then 2 days later, I'm like, shit, let me do some investigating, because usually, like, I used to check phones back in the day when I was crazy, but now I don't, right? But this time I'm like, you know, it's good for me to still do research on somebody, so make sure they aren't like a serial killer or a weirdo or whatever, right? So I went on his Instagram. I was like, okay, like that's whatever. He barely had pictures of himself. And then I went on his Facebook, and there was like all this stuff about Trump and like, you know, being pro guns and like all this. I'm like, whoa. And then he was at like a Trump rally, and like I was like, oh, okay. And like clearly like that's not my views, right? So I could never be with somebody who supports Trump, no matter what race they are. So when I confronted him about it, he was like, well, you know, I just been Republican my whole life, and you know, I've just like, my parents told me about Trump and blah, I just support some of the views and whatever. But even though I know Trump is a bad person, but I still support him. I'm like, bro, what? And then he also claimed in the beginning, when we first started talking, that he did date women of color, like he's dated black women before, blah blah blah, like, you know, basically the same type of spiel as the last white man. So I'm like, what is with y'all, where it's like y'all are just hating black women, like you claim to be in love with them and doing all this stuff, right? But then they just be manipulating you, twisting your words, and then I don't know. So after that, I was like, yeah, no more white men for me, because I don't want to take that chance again, to where, you know, you get feelings for them and blah blah blah, and then you dig a little deeper, or somebody like DMs you out of nowhere and blah blah, and then they're like, oh, they're a racist, they actually hated you since day one, they were pretending the whole time, you know. Like, that is like really traumatic for somebody to go through. And that's literally why a lot of black women don't date outside of their race. But then if we do date in our race, we're stuck with the men who make us baby mamas, or like they're SoundCloud rappers, or like they don't pay the bills and don't treat us right, whatever, you know. So then people will tell us, oh, just date outside of your race. But then you have another lose-lose situation over there. So either way, men just ain't shit. Either way.